One of the main reasons the Marines cannot intervene in Wano right now is because they've launched a full-scale attack to try to capture the Warlords. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like Akainu is not a person that will half-ass this. Like, if the Marines can't catch any Warlords and just come back empty-handed, that would look pretty bad. So in my opinion, I feel like somebody has to be captured and there has to be some sort of consequences to the Warlord system being abolished. So that's what we're gonna discuss in this video. We're gonna go through every single Warlord and try to figure out what their fate is. We're gonna start things off with Boa Hancock, who I kinda already talked about in detail in another video, so I'm not gonna discuss it too much here. If you wanna hear more, definitely go check out that video. I also talked about Sabo and Vivi. But in regards to Boa, right now all we know is that Kobe is going after her. And if Kobe is the only one leading the charge, I think Boa will not have any issues. But looking at it story-wise, I don't think Kobe will be the only one to go. Obviously, Akainu knows like the Warlords are strong, and with the Kuja in particular, they have to take in all of the Kuja pirates and all of the Kuja people. It's not just the Kuja pirates that are considered pirates, all of the people on Amazon Lily are considered pirates. So in order to take in Boa Hancock, they're gonna need a lot of firepower. Now at the same time, if they do send in somebody like an admiral and some members of the SSG, Hancock and the Kuja are in kind of a tough situation because they live on that island. They can't just pick up their whole nation and just get out of there. So I can totally see somebody like Fujitora coming, which a lot of people mention is a good option. First off, he's blind, so he's kind of a perfect counter to Boa's powers. Second of all, he was on a ship last time we saw him and it looked like he might have been heading to Amazon Lily. So if we do get Fujitora and Kobe going after Hancock, I do think she's in trouble. Now from there, it could go two different ways in my opinion. You could go either this really dark route where Boa gets captured and gets sent back into slavery with the world government, or she gets defeated but ends up working something out with either Kobe or Fujitora, and the reason for that could either be the Luffy connection or something to do with sword. Personally, I just don't think somebody like Hancock or Sabo will get captured, spurring this like attack on the world government right after Wano. But overall, out of all of the Warlords, I do feel like Boa is one of the most likely options to actually get captured. But that's pretty much all I have to say about Boa. Again, I broke it more down in detail in my other video. But next, let's talk about Dracula Mihawk, a person that not a lot of people are worried about. Mihawk, of course, is one of the most respected people in terms of power. Either you believe he's stronger or weaker than Shanks, it doesn't matter. Most people have him as very strong. He's the person that Endgame Zoro is trying to surpass, so he's absolutely gonna be a monster. So like most people, I don't think Mihawk would end up getting captured, but can you imagine the reaction if Mihawk actually got captured? Not only was some of the craziest slander to date show up on Twitter, but the shock from that would be pretty astronomical. And honestly, if Oda really wanted to go for a high impact moment, that could be a way to do it. Especially if he wanted to hype up somebody like Green Bull or the SSG, having Mihawk actually brought in and captured, that is a statement. But at the same time, I just don't think it makes sense story-wise. Like, yes, that would be a very hard-hitting impact at first, but what happens after that? Is Zoro really gonna be like, okay guys, we have to go save Mihawk? That would just feel really silly, to be honest. Maybe you could say Shanks goes to save his old friend, but they're like good companions, but I don't think they're like best buddies to the point where Shanks would like invade Impel Down to save Mihawk. So yeah, overall, I don't think story-wise it makes sense, and power-wise, it still takes a lot to take in Mihawk. Like I mentioned, I don't feel like Akainu is half-assing this, so if you're going after Mihawk, he's at least sending one admiral. But is one admiral really enough? Like, if you send Kizaru, that's not gonna do it. So on top of Kizaru, of course, there were all those battleships that we saw, and I do expect the SSG to be involved in some way, but if a second admiral does not show up, I do feel like Mihawk will be fine. Not saying he just wins the battle, because we don't know how strong the SSG is, and all those battleships, even if they're not gonna be a real problem, they're still gonna be annoying. But I do think he'll be at a level where Mihawk doesn't get captured, puts up a good fight, and is able to escape. The other thing you have to consider is that Mihawk knew this was kind of coming. When Perona was leaving to find Gecko Moria, Mihawk was like, okay, this is a good time to leave because something is brewing at the Reverie. So he kind of already knew this was coming, so I would expect him to be prepared. Because although Mihawk, when he saw all those battleships, he was kind of excited, right? He was like, oh, this is exciting. It's been a while since I've been chased. But at the end of the day, he still became a warlord under the world government. So even though he likes to fight and get stronger, he definitely enjoys his leisure as well. So if he's preparing, you would probably think he prepares for the worst case scenario where multiple admirals show up. Now, like I mentioned, mention, if multiple admirals show up like Fujitora and Green Bull, that's gonna be a problem. And that would be really badass to see two admirals pull up on Mihawk. Like Kizaru and Green Bull pulling up and Mihawk's just chilling there with his sword and he's just sitting down looking at him. That would be a scene. But if that were the case, obviously Mihawk would be in trouble, but he might not be alone. You see, Shanks and the red hair pirates might not go out of their way to like go to Impel Down and rescue Mihawk. But if Mihawk was like, hey, some people are coming to get me, will you guys come and just help me out for a bit? I don't think they would have a problem with that. Those two are on really good terms, and like imagine the scene. We see like Kizaru and Green Bull pull up to Mihawk, already escalating the hype, and then we just see Shanks and Beckman and Rue and Yasop just pull up right behind him. That would just be such a crazy scenario, and I low-key want it to happen. I mean, Oda did tease recently that Shanks will be on the move soon, so that could be a case. Ultimately though, I do feel like Mihawk will be able to escape safely one way or another, and after that he will be sticking with the red hair pirates because I feel like that makes the most sense. That's the bad thing about Mihawk at the end of the day, is that he's a lone wolf. He's incredibly strong, but if you bring enough people to him, it's gonna be annoying. Plus, if he ends up with the red hair pirates, maybe not like join the crew, but like stuck with them for a bit, that sets up the opportunity for the Straw Hats to meet him and then rematch with Zoro, a Davy back fight. There's endless possibilities. So yeah, for Mihawk, I do think he'll be fine and he's gonna end up with the red hair pirates for a while. But next up, let's talk about Bartholomew Kuma, because guess what? He's still a warlord. Now, Kuma is another person I talked a lot about in my other video, but for right now, I believe he's either dead or still a slave. And there's many reasons for that, some of it lining up with what Big News Morgans was saying, but I do feel like a lot of us had the impression that Kuma will be fine eventually because he was working with Vegapunk. A lot of us had this idea that Vegapunk, because he seems like a good person, had this way of fixing Kuma and making him fine again. And that could be possible, but it's also possible that there is no magical switch to turn him okay again. And that doesn't mean Vegapunk has to be a bad person, but maybe it's like they're really working in this covert mission and Kuma didn't want to blow his cover. So essentially Kuma sacrifices himself and becomes a slave and a robot for the rest of his life. And we know Sabo's mission was to save Kuma. Well, what if he realizes there is no way to do so? The next best option would be probably to free Kuma from his misery. So yeah, based off of that and everything else that happened at the Reverie, I think either Sabo killed Kuma or he tried to kill Kuma and he failed. Now, if Kuma is dead, there are ways that he could still be an impact, especially with his devil fruit going back into circulation. There's that Straw Hat theory where Kuma's devil fruit kind of line up with these numbers that fit within the Straw Hats, so maybe somebody else could get that fruit and join the Straw Hats or something like that, or that's just overall a very powerful fruit that somebody else could get their hands on. If Kuma is not dead, maybe there's still some way to save him, or he just has to be sacrificed later. Jewelry Bonnie was also at the Reverie and they had some sort of connection, but I feel like Kuma's death could be a way to spur her character to have a bigger mission as well. But either way, I don't think Kuma escapes the grasp of the world government. In my opinion, he's either already dead or he's still a slave. And then after him, we only have 2 people left. I know it's the 7 warlords, but right now it's only 5, technically even 4. And let's first discuss Weevil and we'll save the best for last. Now, Weevil is really interesting because he was a very recent character. We didn't meet him until post time skip. And obviously his storyline is tied to the Whitebeard pirates, who really don't have that big of a role anymore within the story. Yes, we have Marco and Izo in Wano right now, and sure, the Whitebeard pirates could come to Wano later, but as far as we know right now, they've kind of all scattered and retired. But because of Weevil, we know they have to come back into the story somehow. And because of that storyline, I just don't think Weevil is gonna get captured. I think a very likely scenario could be an admiral actually gets sent after Weevil. And I don't know if we'll get a full fight scene because Oda doesn't always show the fights, but even hearing about how Weevil fought like Kizaru or something, that would be a nice parallel because Kizaru was really the one that introduced him. But yeah, say like Kizaru was sent after Weevil, those two fought, and then Weevil actually got away. That would be a great way to like really showcase how strong Weevil is and still have him available for the future storyline. Because if he gets captured by the Marines, he's gonna be completely irrelevant. His only friend slash family is Bakken, and she clearly is just using him, so nobody's gonna go save Weevil and Impel Down or anything like that. The only way that will work is like if all the warlords get captured or something and the Straw Hats like actually go attack the world government right after Wano, which I personally don't see happening, but it's definitely not impossible. So as far as Weevil, I do think he's gonna be tied up in a very serious fight, and I think that's definitely part of the reason Marco felt like it was okay to leave Sphinx Island. At the same time though, if Weevil gets captured, that would really give Marco confidence to leave Sphinx Island. I just think it's more likely that he's fighting Kizaru right now, so he'll be caught caught up for a bit. And even after that, he's no longer protected by the world government, so he actually has to be on the run and can't just go after all these pirates. But I think for Weevil's storyline, ultimately, I don't see him as a bad character. Like, he's just a big idiot that's being taken advantage of. When he actually talks about Whitebeard, you could tell like he's actually like caring about like his dead dad that we don't even know if it's his actual dad. One idea I really liked is that after Wano, the Straw Hats actually go with Marco and meet some of the other Whitebeard pirates, and that maybe opens up the pathway for Weevil to come back into the story. Who knows, maybe like Marco knows where the 4th poneglyph is and Luffy goes with him that way, and that's how you get like maybe a short mini arc like figuring out this whole Weevil thing. Because I definitely do feel like Weevil is a character that once he meets Luffy and they kind of duke it out and like get over everything, Weevil can like kind of be converted and realize like Bakken is just manipulating him. Once Bakken is out of the picture, Weevil just kind of becomes a very strong ally. And if he's actually Whitebeard's son, him going and fighting Blackbeard would be very useful. He's even said himself many times, I want to fight Blackbeard and defeat him to get revenge. So ultimately, that's where I feel like Weevil's storyline is heading, and him getting captured right now, I don't think is that likely. But finally, let's talk about the biggest wild card, the absolute GOAT himself, Buggy the Clown. Realistically, if you send an admiral after Buggy, he's screwed. But at the same time though, maybe they don't take him that seriously and don't send actual powerhouses after him. He was already making a plan to escape as well, so he should have been prepared to run. And honestly, I could see it going either way. Like, he could be the only warlord that gets captured, or he's the god and is able to escape somehow. At the same time though, I feel like Buggy has a lot more to offer within the story. Like, he's a gaggy, funny character, but he's definitely more so on the Usopp spectrum for me, as opposed to like the Foxy, Wapol, and Condorianos. Like, what is Buggy's backstory? How did he become a pirate? How did he join the Roger Pirates? I want to know those things. Most of the story, he's been this comedic, goofy clown, but he's done some very impactful things as well. He did become a warlord. He did save Luffy at Marineford, and he contributed a lot at Marineford overall. I definitely don't think Oda is just gonna use him as a gag character for the rest of the story. So for Buggy's future in the story, I do think he's gonna have a pretty big role. Obviously, his main mission right now is that Captain John's treasure. I don't know if that's actually gonna be a real storyline to follow, but either way, I do think he has to get back with the main storyline eventually and meet up with the Straw Hats, because that's the only way you get in the main storyline. You have to meet up with Luffy, or else you're not gonna get focused. Like, we're not gonna see a separate Buggy arc unless it's like a cover page or something. So yeah, with Buggy, I could see a scenario where he escapes, but like the rest of his men are arrested. I could totally see a scene where Green Bull is like talking to Akainu. He's like, oh, we captured all the strong people, but Buggy himself got away. And at that point, I'm sure Akainu was like, don't worry about the guy, let him go off. And then once again, Buggy is now left with like Alvida and the 2 friends that he's always had. Not gonna lie, can't remember their names off the top of my head. With the other scenario of Buggy getting actually captured, I feel like it would sideline him too much. Like, he would not be relevant until the Straw Hats actually go to Impel Down or wherever he's held. And like, eventually the Straw Hats will have to like fight the world government and go to Impel Down. I think Doflamingo, something's gonna happen in Impel Down there. I don't expect Bon Clay to be in Impel Down for the rest of his life either, so like those things have to like come back. But like, because of Buggy's character and his nature and the fact that he's the GOAT, I think he'll be able to escape. So overall, with the Warlords, with Boa Hancock, I think they're gonna take her seriously, send an admiral over, and she's gonna be in trouble, but most likely works out a deal with Kobe. Mihawk, I hope he's able to get a good fight with an admiral before he kind of joins up with the red-haired pirates. Kuma, as I mentioned, I think is either dead or still a slave. Weevil, kind of same thing as Mihawk, get a fight with an admiral, escape, and then come back to the story somehow. And finally, Buggy, he's the GOAT, he's gonna be fine. But I'm definitely interested in what you guys think happened to each of these warlords, so let me know in the comments below. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. To keep up with this channel, you gotta hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified. Thank you to all my King Pirates Elite members on YouTube and Patreon for supporting the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch at I'mDZach, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!